It's a city of paradoxes. In Mumbai, people dream of nothing less than the impossible. It's said here, if you can dream it, you can do it. It's not surprising then that the city, where space is always in short supply, stretched over to accommodate an audacious dream.
We don't have a similar kind of space anywhere else in India.
It's like a ventilation in this city.
When we started, Om and I, we have rehearsed in BEST buses. We have rehearsed in local trains.
The genesis of the Ncpa was that audacious dream. A dream is always bigger than the concrete form it eventually comes to acquire. It's hard to imagine then the scale of the dream that gave birth to the National Centre for the Performing Arts, or Ncpa, in Mumbai.
It was the dream child of Dr. Jamshed Baba. And he was looking for a plot of land over here in South Bombay. And he asked for something like 30,000 square meters. So, I mean, where do you find 30,000 square meters in Bombay in those days? I think he went on asking Mr. S.K. Patil, who was the chief minister, give me a plot of land, etc., etc. Mr. Patil, in the story that I'm told, is that he came across and gave him a piece of sea. And he says, Dr. Baba, you want this? Why don't you fill it up? So without hesitating, he said, yes, we will fill it up. And there is the land for the Ncpa. And that's how it was born. And that was due to the enormous support he received from Mr. J.R.D. Tata.
The Ncpa was Mr. Bhaba's and Mr. Tata's gift to the city of Mumbai. At a time, it was most required. Ncpa provided space and support to artists working in the city of Mumbai in the 50s and 60s. The 50s and the 60s were exciting times for artists to be in Bombay, as it was called then. Bhulabhai Desai Institute, run out of the bungalow of renowned lawyer Bhulabhai Desai, was the epicenter of an artistic movement of sorts. M.F. Hussain, Pandit Ravi Shankar, Ibrahim Al-Qazi, they all used to work out of that place, paying a token fee of 1 rupee a day.
A very good day would be when, because there was no place, I would be rehearsing my theatre on the lawn, outdoors, with drums beating, because that is what I was doing, with lots of children in it. And there would be Ravi Shankar, who was trying patiently to rehearse on the first floor terrace, who would then come and say, Vijay, are hame bhi to kuch karne do. So, you know, the divide between arts had vanished. Not in an intellectual way, but in a very intuitive, creative, chaotic manner, mingling with each other. And I think therefore, what we keep on saying, that cultural renaissance had already begun. So that is what was happening in Bombay then. So I would say Bombay was ready to receive the dream of Ncpa.
A place called the Chabildas High School in Dadar, which was really the home of experimental theatre in Bombay, which was a very generous of the school authorities to give us that theatre, but it was an inconvenient place to reach. It was an uncomfortable theatre to watch a play in or perform a play in. When the Ncpa decided to expand, and the experimental theatre, of course, coming along was a huge blessing. Stool. More. There. Done it!
Artists got a home in the form of the Ncpa, and over the years, it has continued to evolve as an important cultural institution. The Ncpa began to function in 1969 with a library, studio and a small recording theatre. It set out to realize its mission statement: to promote and preserve India's rich cultural heritage through building an archive of performances that would have been lost, possibly, if not for the NCPA's timely intervention.
August 1970. The inauguration was a legendary percussion player, Ustad Amanjan Thirakwasa. He was in his 80s on those days. And what a recording, you can hear sometime and see it is there. So that was starting in 1970.
The NCPA archives today are perhaps the most authoritative resource for Indian music in the country.
Roughly, I am telling, as of today, we will have about 5,000 hours of audio, 1,500 hours of video, 500 hours of folk music recorded in the field.
Ustad Vilayat Khan told one of our members of our Indian Music Society that the best of me is preserved in the recordings of the NCPA.
I find it fascinating that when Vilayat Khan Sahab, I knew maybe before 20 years of his death, what was his music like, I have seen personally, sitting across to him. But when I come to NCPA and what I hear the archival recordings made 40 years ago, 35 years ago, I understand the complete journey of the man and how he must have really transcended his own imagination and gone to such a creative height.
Archiving performances has been just one part of the NCPA's work on music. Research work to document the wealth of Indian classical music is the other important initiative.
On your PC, you will get to hear the music and you will get to see the music in terms of graphs. This is a kinesthetic principle that the human intellect works on, that what you are hearing, if you are able to see, or what you are seeing, if you are able to hear, the impact on your sensory organ is double.
The NCPA hosted and continues to welcome legendary artists and emerging talents alike from the world of music and dance to experiment and create in its campus.
We took a theme, Rag, Ras, Rang. The theme was, we took one basic theme and then one musician would start another note, another cue and another melody will merge. That will create a different, totally different kind of feel, and then we come back to the original theme. And the crowd was a mixed crowd, not regular classical music listeners. And some of them came to me and they said, "Oh, we didn't know if classical music sounds like this, we would never miss it."
To be able to carry out its role of a cultural organizer and a resource center, the NCPA also grew physically, realizing that promotion and preservation of arts in India would require solid infrastructure. The NCPA today boasts of world-class infrastructure and facilities, all housed in an awe-inspiring complex. The Ncpa complex, situated right at the edge of the downtown commercial district of Mumbai, Nariman Point, stands out among its neighbouring high-rise office blocks. Beautifully landscaped, the buildings here reflect the modern outlook of the institution they house. On the inside, there's a curious mix of traditional and contemporary. Ornate staircases, chandeliers grace the foyers and corridors, leading to state-of-the-art performing spaces.
I'm told the conversation went like this between Dr. Baba and Mr. Jayadi, who said, "Who's the best architect in the world?" So he said it was Philip Johnson. So he said, "Get him." "And who's the best acoustician in the world?" He says, "That's Cyril Harris." He said, "So get him." So eventually Philip Johnson and Cyril Harris created this wonderful auditorium, which is the Tata Theatre.
cultural hub for the city of Mumbai, where people can sit down and talk to one another, like an adda, where you sit and you chat up the universe, that sort of place.
The Little Theatre, Experimental Theatre, Godrej Dance Theatre, Tata Theatre, and Jamshed Bhava Theatre, all of them have been designed to meet the special requirements of various art forms and, of course, the needs of the artists. The spacious Piramal Art Gallery for Visual Arts rounds up the NCPA's approach to include various kinds of art forms.
Ncpa is the right format which can encompass so much. It can encompass an art exhibition, a painting exhibition, theatre rehearsals and workshops, folk singers, folk dances, people coming from all parts of India and performing in Ncpa. I think it's a blessing.
The Ncpa, when you come here, it has all that you need in terms of the infrastructure. I really feel that it's a pleasure for an artist because you're taken care of in every way. It's a very holistic experience.
And some artists are only too happy to break out of the traditional indoor performing spaces and spill all around.
Ncpa as a performing space is very, very exciting. These walls, these sunken gardens are the places to be really utilized. There's a lot of site-specific work which can be done.
Ncpa came up at an interesting time in history, a time when institutions were being created as part of the nation-building process. Most of these institutions, however, somewhere along the line, failed to read the sign of the changing times and got pushed to the margins. Few who withstood the test of time were those who responded creatively to their changing circumstances. In the next part of the program, we find out what path did the Ncpa choose when it found itself at the crossroad.
Let's do something Indian.
Yes. Badal Sarkar, Manto. I was thinking we could do Agamemnon.
Who's it by?
Ischilus. Iski kaun?
The Ncpa was never happy being a place where artists would come in only as performers and people only as spectators. It wanted to be a laboratory, bubbling with new ideas and forms. It wanted to welcome the masses into the world of art and culture. The current activities at the Ncpa reflect this effort.
तो ये बीच-बीच में हम लोग जो रुकते हैं और यही सबसे बड़ा फर्क है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक म्यूजिक का कि वो सांस ही नहीं लेता.
It was a dream with an island to be created for culture in the middle of the sea. It started so happening that I said, I come here for the events, but is that what Ncpa is? And I said, no, it's much more than that. It had to be a space which created culture. Now, how do you create culture? By allowing that space to be a workspace for creative minds.
The Ncpa moved from strength to strength and came to acquire an important position on the cultural map of India. Good programming has always been the core of Ncpa's strength, and even after being in existence for almost 50 years, It turns in an interesting mix month on month, bringing together a vintage production, like Motley's Waiting for Godot, with a Bihu performance from Assam.
I think a lot of thought goes into the programming, and sort of when you look at that monthly sheet, there are always things that jump out and you wonder how they actually manage to, contact these people and bring these performers. I think they do a pretty good job of showcasing a wealth of India's traditions.
To popularize high art or classical forms is a difficult job. On one hand, the audience could lose interest if the work is too complex, while on the other, there's always a risk of dumbing it down to make it accessible to the masses. It's a fine line to walk on, a tough act to balance.
The dance performance does not have to be a daunting and intimidating affair, that entry points are available. All you need to do is to just open the aperture just a little bit, enabling people to find that entry point. After that, the rest of it is done by the art itself.
Apart from hosting other artists, the Ncpa also houses the Symphony Orchestra of India, or SOI, the country's first fully professional symphony orchestra. With musicians recruited from all across the world, including India, the SOI presents a series of concerts in Mumbai twice every year. It also presented the Indian premiere of Puccini's opera, Madame Butterfly, produced by the Ncpa.
It happened by accident. I met the great music director in London who was performing in a hall, and we were absolutely stunned by what he and his players were playing. And we went backstage and we invited him to come to India. And then he brought his wonderful musicians who are all basically trained in the Moscow School of Music, which is one of the great schools of the world. And you see the result here, that in 3 years now, we are already in our 7th season.
I think the Symphony Orchestra of India is a fabulous initiative. Bombay has had symphony orchestras, and so it's important for these things to be kept alive. They're a part of our history, and we need to recognize that.
Another initiative that flowed from the SOI has been the introduction of the Suzuki method. Through this method, school children are taught to play musical instruments quite early in their lives. The Ncpa believes that it'll throw up talent required to set up a truly Indian symphony orchestra.
When I came here, they said he's absolutely the ideal age, because in this method you learn by listening to the music and not reading the notes, which they're obviously still young to do. So it's a fantastic concept and I totally love it.
What do you like to play? Which is your favorite song?
Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
On the Indian music front, the Ncpa has come together with the All India Musicians Group, or AIMG, comprising the who is who of Indian music to popularize classical music.
As far as their archival music is concerned, in that meeting it was decided to release that music with some commercial record company.
Till now accessible to only a limited number of people, select music recordings from the Ncpa's audio archives will soon be made available in the market. The Ncpa also plans to digitize all the works so that it can save money that it spends on maintaining the archives, and also safeguard this treasure of tapes against the rapid transition in technologies.
I have to maintain what I told you, that 70 degree Fahrenheit plus minus 2, 24 hours, 365 days, year after year. There is not only a air conditioning equipment, there is a dehumidifier. So this maintaining it year after year, expensive.
NCPA has been trying to keep pace with the times, sensing and creating opportunities. But as a public institution, it has had its share of difficulties too. In the next part of the program, we look at some of those challenges facing this unique institution. While the NCPA has had a lot of things going for it, there are an equal number of things, if not more, going against it too.
The Ncpa, somehow with its tall walls and its large gates, intimidates people to enter, and some of them feel a little hesitant, which should not be so. It's a national center for the performing arts, and it should be thrown open to the wide range of public. So that process has now started.
The Ncpa has evolved to be a warm and welcoming space, something that has done wonders to its otherwise intimidating public image. But a public institution has to be accessible to the public, in body as well as in spirit, for the spectator as well as the performer.
Happy as I am and delighted as I am with the existence of the Ncpa, I still feel the Ncpa needs to do a lot more. I think it needs to get down and dirty. It needs to roll up its sleeves and roll up its trousers and wade into the mud, and uncover the talent that's out there.
A young Dalit girl, her basti was totally burnt out. But the photographs which she had taken there were really awe-inspiring, and I referred her to Vijaybai. And Vijayji immediately said, if the quality of the photograph is like this, we'll give her an exhibition. I think Ncpa is playing its role very well.
We need to make this far more vibrant, invite many, many younger people and make it a more inviting and a welcoming space than it is at present. We intend to do that when funds permit.
Funding is another issue that's been holding up the Ncpa to realize its full potential.
Cracking it means you're getting like-minded corporates, like-minded trusts to say, this is what you owe to society, this dream, and let us make it together possible.
Culture, especially high culture, has always come with patronage. In India, it used to be the patronage of royal courts. And given that industrialists are our new Maharajas, it's important for them to support high culture too.
With limited resources to work with, the Ncpa is working smartly to maximize return on every effort and every investment. Until the government or corporates pitch in, it's perhaps the best approach to carry on with the work.
There are many great halls doing excellent work, the Shanmukananda in Matunga, but they have a concentration of their own type of programs. The Nehru Center does a splendid job, and in fact we've started talking to the Nehru Center to say we should collaborate, and there should be far friendlier association among the centers.
The Ncpa also has an online presence now, in the form of a well-designed website that carries an up-to-date schedule of events, as well as the option to select and buy tickets. The Ncpa has also initiated an effort to reach out to colleges of the city to draw in younger people and prepare a new generation of audience.
One of the more recent initiatives at the Ncpa has been workshops. And judging by just the kind of response we've had to workshops for young people, I think that could be an active way of expanding an audience base for the future.
The story of the Ncpa is more or less the story of every institution and individual trying to work in the cultural space. While the principal actors of this story will find a way to take the story forward, the responsibility to support and motivate them lies with us.
You can't allow it to go to rack and ruin. It must be kept in absolutely peak condition.
There is always something much more to be done, and we would see to it that those things are added to it.
If Bombay is to remain a vital center, it is important for various facets of its culture to really be showcased and to be enlivened all the time.
This story will unfold and develop into a brilliant narrative. Only when there are people like us, interested in listening, in recounting and becoming a part of it.